F1 is all about being the fastest, from quick reactions off the line, to working out the fastest strategy, to being first across the finish. Formula 1 prides itself on being the pinnacle of motorsport racing, and it's not just the drivers and cars performing at high speeds, the pit crews also race each other to get their cars' tyres changed the quickest. When they nail this choreographed dance, the results look spectacular, with the record pit stop being set at Brazil in 2019 with a time of 1.82 seconds. So it comes as a surprise to many that F1 have all of a sudden decided to slow this iconic procedure down, with many fans fuming about the reasoning behind the change. But why and how are these pit stops being slowed down? Before these changes, there were no timing rules in pit stops. Simply change the tyres and get the car back out on track as quickly as possible. The car would be driven into the pits and lifted up by two jacks. Next, each tyre would be replaced as quickly as possible, and when done so, the mechanic at each wheel would lift their wheel gun up into the air to indicate the tyre at their corner of the car had been fitted. When each tyre has been fitted, the car is lowered down, and the driver leaves the pit box as soon as they see the green light. But a note sent to all F1 teams ahead of the Austrian Grand Prix warned that this incredible synchronised procedure would have to change from the Hungarian Grand Prix in August onwards. Effectively, there will be a minimum time for each of the different parts of a pit stop, and F1 have said the purpose of this directive is to ensure wheel nuts are fully tightened onto cars during pit stops, and to prevent mechanics anticipating the completion of different stages of the pit stop process in order to save time. I can't find this document published online yet, but some of the details believed to be on this letter include that if a mechanic reacts to the completion of any stage of the pit stop process in less than 0.15 seconds, the sensor must register this as invalid and require them to repeat their action to ensure that it is being completed. In addition, under the revised technical directive, 0.2 of a second must elapse between the final signal being given and the drivers being given the all clear to leave the pit box, another rule aimed at preventing anticipation. But supposedly the FIA, F1's governing body, have kept some numbers secret. For example, they did not disclose what the exact tolerance is for the start of the pit stop, for fear that if it was made public then teams and drivers would try to exploit the number to boost their getaways. Now these changes have been met with a lot of distaste. Many have joked that the FIA might as well bring in a minimum lap time to improve safety while they're at it. One question is, what if the sensors break and claim that the minimum time was not met? This would mean the mechanics would have to perform the procedure again, only to find out the sensors are claiming the minimum time was not met again, all the while a competitor jumps the team in the pit lane. And if this sensor time is so easy to implement, why didn't the FIA put sensors on the car near the wheels to check if the tyres fitted to the car? If the tyres are not fitted and the driver is released from the pit box, these sensors could flash a bright light on the driver's steering wheel to tell them to stop immediately. And what's this about preventing anticipation? Surely anticipation is a crucial part of any sport. When a driver decides to place their car on a particular part of the racetrack, they anticipate that the driver they're battling won't put their car in the same place, and instead will challenge them but give them room at the same time. Instinctively anticipating something is what separates fast reactions from slow reactions, and many question why this type of stuff is not being encouraged. This isn't the first time F1 have been wrapped up in controversy regarding anticipation and reaction rates though. At 2017 in Austria, Bottas' start coincided almost exactly with when the red lights went out, and the stewards put him on investigation and had a long look. Meanwhile, when Bottas jump-started the lights in Hungary 2020, as well as other drivers in the past having similar incidents, the stewards claimed he was still in the pit box and simply abandoned the investigation, despite him already being at speed come the start of the race. So F1 have had this reaction time problem for a while now, and I fully expect more of the same discussion when a mechanic performs a task 0.01 seconds quicker than expected. So why is this being brought up mid-season for? Well, apparently the latest rule change has come about as a result of questions raised by some teams over the speed with which Red Bull, among others, have completed certain pit stops this year. Red Bull have won the fastest pit stop award in 5 of the 7 races so far this season, with Sergio Perez having the quickest stop in the French Grand Prix, taking just 2.04 seconds, 0.16 seconds quicker than any other driver. In addition, the Austrian team have had the 6 fastest pit stops of 2021 so far. The changes are expected to slow down pit stop times by 2 to 3 tenths of a second. Now, of course, this has raised a few eyebrows. It is highly likely that Mercedes have been involved in some of this questioning, many not happy with the Silver Arrow's constant complaints throughout the last month or so, with many indicating that this change will advantage them in the championship. It is weird that Mercedes are randomly mentioning safety in the middle of one of their closest title fights, despite none of the Red Bull Racing or Williams pit stops in the last few years having resulted in a tyre coming off or a tyre getting loose, and that's hundreds of competitive stops. Yes, there was that horrific incident in Germany in 2013 when Webber's wheels struck a cameraman in a scary incident that could have had horrific consequences, but much has changed 8 years on from that. That's the most recent example of a pit stop going awfully wrong. For Red Bull, it seems cruel for their pit crews, who train especially hard day in and day out, so that the pit stops are executed perfectly in as little time as possible, especially after the rule change in 2017 that made the tyres bigger and therefore heavier. The best teams are now effectively being punished for being too good. Some have questioned why the FIA are doing this mid-season, almost like they are trying to prevent a title fight. When Ferrari were dominating in the early 2000s, the FIA banned and pulled every trick in the book to try and stop their success. Yet it appears the FIA have done almost nothing to Mercedes and are now suspiciously punishing their rivals. But are people overreacting to all this? Will this minimum time really even affect Red Bull or any team for that matter? For example, there has to be a 0.15 second delay on any pit stop stage, yet the average reaction time of a human is 0.25. Maybe this change will mean nothing at all. Either way, please drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'd really appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button if you learned something from this video. A couple of videos on screen now, but thanks for watching, and goodbye.